Hello chums, what we're going to look at here is finding decimal equivalents to fractions. And what we're going to use is our knowledge of equivalents and our knowledge of decimals. Okay, let's start with some basic facts here we know about decimals and their fraction equivalents. I know that 0.01 is equivalent in value to 1/100th. Okay, I also know that 0.10 is the same as 10/100ths, and that's equivalent to 1/10th, because 100 divided by 10 is 10, 10 divided by 10 is 1. That's an equivalent value. Now let's just put fractions first. 5/100ths. As a decimal, that has an equal value of 0.05. If you think back to place value work on numbers, that's no ones, no tenths, 5/100ths. Just saying the number 500 actually tells you the fraction there, doesn't it? Okay, so that's 500ths. Let's just drop in a new slide here. What about 18/100ths? Well, 18/100ths are equivalent to 0. Well, I know it's 0 because it's less than the whole, isn't it? And that's got 1/10 and 8/100ths. So 18/100ths are the same as 0.18. But what about 18/200ths? What's that as a decimal? Well, 200. I wonder if I can find an equivalent fraction in 1/100ths to that. Yes, I can. 200 divided by 2 is 100. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So I divided that by 2, and I divided that by 2. So I've got a common factor of 2. So 18/100ths is equal to 9/100ths. Oh, I know what that would be as a decimal. That would be 0.09, wouldn't it? So what I'm looking for is that link to 1/100th. So I'm trying to find equivalent fractions to 1/100ths, because then I can convert those into decimals. Let's try with something a little bit more advanced then. Let's go with something such as 30 as my numerator. What denominator? Let's go with 5/100ths. Now it looks like a large number, but actually if something's been split into 500 pieces, they are probably going to be very small bits, aren't they? So you're going to have lots of small parts there. So 35/100ths. Well, the first thing I want to do is try and find an equivalent fraction to 100ths. How do I turn 500 into 100? Well, I take it and I divide by 5. So I'll do exactly the same with my numerators. 30 shared by 5 is 6. Okay, now I'm going to try and turn that into a decimal number, because I'm working with 100ths. So it's less than the whole, so it's 0. I've got no tenths and 6/100ths. So 35/100ths is equal to 0.06 as a decimal. Now, this is where we've been simplifying fractions to find equivalents. But sometimes you don't have to simplify. You actually need to try and make the number for your denominator larger. So what if I had, for an example, 3/25ths, and I want to find that as a decimal? Well, a quick way to do it would be to try and find an equivalent to 100. How do you turn 25 into 100? You times it by 4. So I'll take my numerator and also multiply by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. So I've now got 12/100ths. And as a decimal, that will be 0.12. So we've looked at the basics here. Knowing what 1/100th is as a decimal. We've turned hundredths into decimals. We've then worked at simplifying fractions until we get to 100ths and then finding our decimal equivalents. Simplifying again. And we've even looked at finding equivalent fractions where we're not simplifying. We actually ended up multiplying our denominators and numerators here, didn't we? But all of them helped us to find accurate decimal equivalents to fractions. I hope this helps you with your work.